Hello legal hustlers. In this video, we explore international organizations and violent non-state actors. International non-governmental organizations are private organizations that operate internationally, independent of any government. They play significant roles in advocacy, humanitarian aid, and promoting global issues such as human rights, environmental protection, and public health. Amnesty International, a global movement that campaigns to end abuses of human rights. They investigate and report on violations, mobilize public opinion, and advocate for justice, freedom, and equality. Transparency International, a non-profit organization focused on combating corruption worldwide. They conduct research, publish corruption indices, advocate for anti-corruption policies, and work to increase transparency and accountability in government and business. International Red Cross, a humanitarian organization that provides assistance to people affected by disasters, conflicts, and crises. They offer healthcare services, disaster response, support for refugees and migrants, and promote humanitarian law and principles. Intergovernmental organizations are entities created by treaty agreements between sovereign states. They serve as platforms for cooperation and coordination among member countries on various issues of mutual interest. Let's see features. Membership. IGOs consist of sovereign states that voluntarily join through treaties. Each state has equal voting rights. Legal status. IGOs are legally distinct entities, allowing them to enter agreements independently. Decision-making structures. They have bodies like assemblies or councils where states decide on policies and programs. Scope of activities. IGOs operate in diverse areas such as economics, security, health, and culture. Funding. Member states fund IGOs, often based on economic size, supplemented by external sources like grants. Now, roles. Facilitating cooperation. IGOs provide platforms for states to collaborate on issues like peacekeeping and development. Setting standards. They develop and promote international norms in trade, human rights, and diplomacy. Conflict resolution. Many IGOs mediate conflicts, facilitate negotiations, and deploy peacekeepers. Economic development. IGOs promote development, trade, investment, and financial stability. Humanitarian assistance. They provide aid, relief, and support to crisis-affected populations. Global governance. IGOs establish rules, manage relations, and address global challenges through multilateralism. National Liberation Movements (NLM) are political organizations that strive to achieve independence, self-determination, or autonomy for a specific group or territory that they believe is oppressed or colonized by another state or entity. These movements often arise in contexts of colonialism, imperialism, or situations where ethnic, cultural, or national identities are suppressed or marginalized. Goals and objectives. Independence or autonomy. NLMs aim for political freedom or self-rule. Self-determination. They seek the right to self-governance and cultural development. End of oppression. NLMs fight against political, economic, and cultural oppression. Methods and strategies. Armed struggle. Some use armed tactics when peaceful means fail. Political mobilization. They mobilize support through activism and alliances. Negotiation. NLMs engage in talks or diplomacy for settlements. Leadership and organization. Charismatic leaders. NLMs are often led by inspirational figures. Organizational networks. They build networks with various groups and supporters. International support and recognition. Solidarity. NLMs get backing from global movements and sympathetic entities. Diplomatic recognition. Successful NLMs gain legitimacy and acknowledgement. Challenges and complexities. Internal divisions. They face internal conflicts and differing views. Repression. NLMs encounter resistance and conflict from ruling powers. Post-conflict challenges. After success, they tackle governance and reconciliation hurdles. Examples of well-known national liberation movements include the African National Congress in South Africa, the Palestine Liberation Organization in Palestine, the Irish Republican Army in Ireland, and the Frente Polisario in Western Sahara. VNSAS, the rapid rise of VNSAs is a threat to world peace. VNSAS stands for Violent Non-State Actors. These are entities or groups that use violence to achieve their objectives but are not part of the government or state structure. They include terrorist organizations, insurgent groups, organized crime networks, and rebel militias, among others. Diverse threats: VNSAs engage in terrorism, organized crime, and extremism, destabilizing regions worldwide. Global impact: their activities disrupt peace, stability, and economic development, affecting states and communities globally. Ideological influence: VNSAS spread extremist ideologies, recruit globally, and foster divisions and conflicts. Weapons and cyber threats: they proliferate weapons and pose cybersecurity risks through cyber attacks and propaganda. Humanitarian crisis: VNSA activities lead to human rights abuses, displacement, and refugee flows, straining global responses. Challenges to governance: they challenge governance structures, rule of law, and democratic institutions, undermining state authority. Need for global cooperation: countering VNSAs requires coordinated efforts, intelligence sharing, and counterterrorism measures worldwide. Impact of global terrorist organizations, threat to security. Global terrorist organizations like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Boko Haram engage in acts of terrorism, including bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations, targeting civilians, government institutions, and international interests. Destabilization: their activities contribute to political instability, social unrest, and economic disruption in regions affected by terrorism, leading to refugee crises, displacement, and humanitarian emergencies. Ideological influence: terrorist groups propagate extremist ideologies, recruit followers globally, and use propaganda to radicalize individuals, fueling religious or ideological conflicts and promoting violent extremism. International drug cartels. Drug trafficking. International drug cartels engage in the trafficking of illegal drugs such as cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and synthetic opioids, contributing to drug addiction, organized crime, and violence in communities. Corruption and violence. Cartels infiltrate government institutions, law enforcement agencies, and businesses, fostering corruption, bribery, and money laundering. They also perpetrate violence, including drug-related killings, turf wars, and intimidation tactics. Transnational operations. Drug cartels operate across borders, utilizing sophisticated networks, smuggling routes, and financial systems to evade law enforcement and expand their illicit activities globally. Human traffickers. Exploitation and trafficking. Human traffickers exploit vulnerable populations, including women, children, migrants, and refugees, for purposes such as forced labor, sexual exploitation, organ trafficking, and domestic servitude. Violation of human rights. Human trafficking violates human rights, dignity, and autonomy, leading to physical and psychological harm, trauma, and long-term consequences for victims and survivors. Networks and routes. Trafficking networks operate internationally, using complex routes, smuggling methods, and online platforms to facilitate their criminal enterprises and profit from human suffering. Warlords. Armed conflict. Warlords and militias perpetuate armed conflicts, civil wars, and insurgencies, causing widespread destruction, displacement, and humanitarian crises in conflict-affected regions. War economies. Warlords profit from conflict economies, including illegal trade in arms, minerals, natural resources, and looting of public funds, exacerbating instability, corruption, and governance challenges. Humanitarian impact. Their actions lead to human rights abuses, atrocities, and violations of international humanitarian law, affecting civilians, communities, and peacebuilding efforts. Ingos and un-ECOSOC. The United Nations Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, plays a crucial role in coordinating the efforts of international non-governmental organizations, INGOs, within the UN system. Here's how INGOs interact with ECOSOC. Consultative status. INGOs can apply for consultative status, allowing them to participate in ECOSOC's work and contribute to discussions and decision-making. Participation in meetings. INGOs with consultative status attend ECOSOC meetings, submit statements, and engage in dialogues on various global issues. Policy contributions. INGOs provide expertise and advocacy to inform ECOSOC's policies on sustainable development, poverty eradication, and human rights. Capacity building. ECOSOC supports INGOs with capacity building activities and networking opportunities to enhance their contributions to global development. Monitoring and reporting. INGOs monitor progress on UN agendas like the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and contribute to ECOSOC's reviews and discussions for improving international development efforts.
Thank you for watching. We're thrilled to have you here and hope that you find our content informative, engaging, and entertaining. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to join us for further updates.